hello everyone, and welcome to a very special event. This is the Tri-Nations Esports Cup, brought to you by Next Level Racing. We are here at a glorious Bathurst for our first of two races here today. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the ever wonderful Chris Mitchell for today's racing action here in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup. We've got three countries that will do battle out there here today. We've got the UK, we've got Australia, and we've got New Zealand, all competing out there on circuit, Chris. This one's going to be awesome, and what a place to start it off than on the mountain.
The greatest circuit in all of Australian motorsport racing. Right here, right now at Mount Panorama, with 6.2 kilometres, 23 turns, and of course, we're driving the Ferrari 488 Evo. We've just hit track for qualifying, and we're following the first couple of cars as they get around. Teo Serrano getting out there through the chase and about to set his first flying lap of this qualifying session. Teo was very quick in pre-qualifying. We opened up pre-qualifying, what was it, a week or two ago, Connery, and we made sure we took the 10 fastest drivers from each country for a full 30-car field this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the drivers that you'll see represented here today. It was relatively competitive in the qualifying, especially for Australia, for example, where all their times are actually quite condensed. So it was, you know, a couple of tenths of a second here or there, which meant that you either appear in this competition or you have to be watching from home. But we've got a contingent of 10 drivers from each country competing here. Like you mentioned, they're out there getting themselves their qualifying lap set here for the moment. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of how today's going to work, we're going to have two 30-minute races, qualifying sessions separate for a bunch of them, so it doesn't matter if you had a poor placing in race number one, you'll be able to get yourself another spot on the starting grid for race number two. But of course, we've also got prizes on offer here in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup, provided to us by our wonderful partners at Next Level Racing. We've got the Next Level Racing Elite Light Wheel Plate Edition for the overall winner. The overall winner also gets a Next Level Racing ES1 Elite seat as well. A prize pool that for the overall winner, that's worth well over 1,000 Australian dollars, and you've also got a regional award for each country, which is the Next Level Racing GT track as well. So some great prizes on offer here today for these drivers.
And a special award as well that is voted by you guys, the viewers watching this right now. Vote for your driver of the day. The voting link will be put in the video description of where you're watching right now. You vote for your favorite driver who's doing the best job, and they will take home a Next Level Racing HF8 haptic feedback gaming chair worth over 800 Australian dollars. And just for you, Connery, that's 400 pounds or 900 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have to do conversions to three different currencies at the moment, given we've got all these different nations represented. It's absolutely fantastic to see, and you can see the Rolex on the bottom right-hand side of your screen there as well. All this new technology that's, you know, Next Level Racing has brought to the sim racing scene. It's absolutely fantastic to see things go from strength to strength as far as the what sort of equipment that you can get here in sim racing. But we've got ourselves qualifying completely underway here. We've got ourselves our first couple of lap times set up onto the board as well. It's so tricky to get a qualifying lap in, or at least a decent qualifying lap in here at Bathurst, due to just how tricky and how demanding on the driver that the circuit is, especially coming through the tight and twisty manner.
It sure is. We're following along with Hugo Allen at the moment, just cutting through Silverstone Park. The track dips off to the right-hand side before they climb up towards McPhillamy Park. This is a really touch-and-go part of the racetrack, as Hugo, on his second flying lap, hasn't set a flying lap time yet. It's only a very short amount of qualifying time to get this done. Down through Skyline and through the S's, it's so easy to tag the wall with the right-hand side of the car there. You get just a brief moment to catch your breath before you're hard on the brakes, knocking it down the gears into Forest Elbow, and set yourself up for a long run down Conrod Straight. We'll be topping out the top of 6th gear and trying to get whatever tow we can from the car in front. Hugo currently following one of the New Zealand cars in the trio as well. There's the 3 New Zealand-based cars, and getting a brilliant tow down Conrod. One Kiwi car jumps out of the way. Hugo continues on down into the chase. in pursuit of a hot time as Matt Karuna holds the top time in qualifying right now with a 2 minutes 1.9 from the Australian contingent, Ryan Liange into second, and Ewan Bake from the Kiwis currently in third.
You raised an important point there, Chris. The teamwork that comes into this qualifying session at the moment, as we see a couple of the Kiwi cars head their way across the line right now. We've got a couple more lap times being set. We've got Dylan O'Shea for New Zealand's currently in 4th place there. As the top placed New Zealand driver. Currently pole position at the moment is Great Britain's Matt Caruana. But returning to the point here, Chris, the teamwork is really going to help in this qualifying session. This circuit, of course, well known for its ample drafting opportunities down to one of the 2 main straights here. That's going to give you an extra couple of tenths of a second at least, if you can get that slingshot just right.
And getting it perfectly right there on screen, as we called it as well. Dean Ledger in the Australian number 3 entry gets a draft off of a UK car and goes straight to the top 201.7, claiming top spot here with just over 2 minutes left to go. Jansen coming through now on screen to try and set a flying lap. We'll see where that goes on our timing tower. Jansen trying to lock in. We didn't actually get a time registered, so another off track for Jansen, costly there for Steve. He didn't record a time. Now we're going to pick him up and see where we go for Steve Jansen, coming across the line all the way up the order to number 15 for one of our Australian entries.
Yeah, it seems like the Australians in particular doing quite well at the moment. Of course, they hold that pole position setting time by Steen Ledger, but Lianage is up there as well. It's important to have those cars around you for just that little bit of assistance during the race here. We got O'Shea coming across the line here as well, and a couple of other cars that are kind of struggling to improve on their lap times at the moment in this very latter part of the session. Of course, due to it being an open qualifying session, they will get themselves the opportunity to complete their laps once the checkered flag gets out there onto circuit. But really, time is of the essence here at the moment. You know, you have drivers setting lap times in the 2-minute mark here at the moment, and that could be a struggle when it comes to the end of the session if you actually get that extra lap or not.
It's going to be very marginal whether you can. Callan Chin just going through there, only good enough for 6th right now, 202.6. We follow with Daniel Damon, who sets his first lap on the board. Took 2 attempts to get it there. Daniel going through to the number 11 spot with a 202.8 to try and park it in there, as we pick up with Matt Caruana coming down towards the final corner here into Murray's Corner. Love the red wheels on that one. The 16 UK entry about to come over the line. Currently second on time. Can Matt try to improve here? It's a 202.1 and will stay in second with the 201.9 set earlier in the session. With only about 10 seconds left on the clock, Matt's tapped out. He's out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the tyres will be past their best in terms of qualifying effort at this latter stage of the qualifying session. So it will be surprising to see any big leaps from the drivers out there. So checkered flag is out. So drivers that are on laps will be able to complete them. We do have a good couple of cars that have really struggled to get out there in terms of qualifying, most notably Ryan Mikulev. Not set a time and is currently down on towards pit lane as well. So he will start, well, roughly towards the back of the grid there with no time set.
But as one of our quick Australian drivers, Lachlan Capel, not being able to set a time despite going across the line 3 times in this session, has probably 0x'd himself out in each and every run. It's so easy to copy yourself a 0x. Actually, we're watching Lachlan's car as he comes down through the chase on his final attempt to set a lap. You can see the damage on the right-hand quarter of the Ferrari. So he's found the wall at some point during the session, and that has been disaster for Lockie here. He's going to be way down the back unless he can try and get himself a lap set here on his final attempt out of Murray's Corner. Lockie Capel going all or nothing to try and park it into the field. He's going to run it to the line and goes P7 through his efforts. So a last-minute dash to the line there for Lockie Capel parks him inside the top 10.
Yeah, especially under the pressure as well. He had that one lap that he just had to get right with no incidents that invalidated it. And He was able to deliver in the end, gets himself inside the top 10 in terms of the starting spots here. We're getting very late on in the session now. Just a couple of drivers getting themselves their final lap times in. This is going to be very interesting to watch. We've got a car off there out into the grass.
Let's get you down there.
Oh, Taylor getting, well, potentially impeded on the way through the chase.
He did his best to fight through those cars darting left and right down at the bottom of the chase. Out of Murray's corner then for Nicholas Taylor, currently 20th on time, trying to climb up the order for the first race of the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup, but does not improve, stays position 20 on a 2:03.268.
We've got Ewan Baker currently residing in P5 here for New Zealand, and looks like he's going to be heading his way down in towards the chase imminently. Not exactly improving, at least on his current sector times here at the moment, but he'll have to try and continue on and make the most out of this final sector before we engage racing mode here for the first time in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup powered by Next Level Racing, but instead he decides to dive it down on towards the pit lane. He's done.
Yeah, Ewan deciding not to go for that. And Daniel Yeaman, the last man on track, only managed to get one lap in on time. He's coming out of Forest Elbow now, setting himself up for a run down Conrod Straight for a final attempt. He has the entire racetrack to himself, but he gets tapped out and removed from the session. He's out of time. So Steen Ledger claims the top spot here in qualifying from Matt Caruana and Dylan O'Shea. There's a look at how they wrapped up from qualifying and a look at the beginnings of your starting grid for the first race in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup powered by Next Level Racing.
Fantastic stuff indeed. We do have Steen Ledger on pole position there with Matt Caruana on that front row as well. Dylan O'Shea will line up in third with Linage there in P4. Baker lines up in fifth with Kunseov there in P6. Cable in there in P7 with Healy in P8. We've got Chin in 9th with Roberts in P10. Annan will start in P11 with Stovald in P12. Cycling things through, we got Cleland there in P13. Yemen will start in P14. Mara in 15th with Rodrigo in P16. Serrano there in 17th place. That's a surprise considering in pre-qualifying he was one of the fastest drivers. We got Steve Janssen there in P18. Pluck will start in P19 with Taylor in 20th. Then you got Hogan, Stevens, Reed, and Hiller rounding out the top 24 drivers there. In terms of the drivers starting more towards the back of the starting grid here, we've got Harry McDonald, Adam State, Ryan McKelliff, David Roberts, and Michael Bumage there down in P29. Of course, David Roberts actually not going to be competing here today. He's the safety car driver, as we'll be getting our rolling start here imminently.
Dave himself gets himself a great view of the race while sitting in the stewards room right now alongside Rook Oystra and Ty Ratcliffe from FRG. Keeping things running in the background in cooperation with Motorsports Australia, Motorsports UK and Motorsports New Zealand to bring us the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup, a rolling start for a 30-minute race here. There's a fair few Australians at the pointy end of the field there. I'm not going to start calling it too early here, Connery, but we're looking pretty good so far.
I mean, Australia was pretty much, as far as I can see, the strongest nation coming out of pre-qualifying, and it looks like they've converted that advantage into a fantastic qualifying performance as well. It is a British driver that leads the way in terms of pole position here at the moment, but he's got a whole gaggle of gold cars right behind him that'll certainly be causing him an issue.
At what point do you think the gloves come off and we start to really play the teamwork games in pursuit of glory for your nation?
Well, it's interesting, of course. Ledger, Australia, not British, but there is a Caruana there from the UK in the mix of the Australians. Australian driver pole position here as they're heading up towards the final corner now, and we get this race started. Pace right towards pit lane. We've already got an incident at the very back of the field as Pluck falls towards the rear end here as we'll get this race started. The Tri-Nations Esports Cup here by Next Level Racing is underway here at Bathurst for race number 1. Ledger will lead down in towards turn number 1 for Australia. Caruana there down in towards second place. Meanwhile, it's a whole bunch bunch of side-by-side action through turn 1, but no major incidents, at least, well, ignoring the fact that we had one before the green flag.
Yeah, we haven't got to Corrie Bend yet. Don't count your chicken. Just we head up mountain straight. Steen Legend leading the way. Caruana in a second. But Dylan O'Shea there in third. And a whole gaggle of Ferrari 488 Evos go pouring in to Quarry Bend for the first time. It looks like we're making our way towards the cutting, rather unscathed at the pointy end of the field. Look at Caruana cutting a very tight line into the cutting. Just trying to look for a bit of clean air to keep a check on where those walls are, because they can creep up on you very quickly through this portion of the track, especially when you're racing in a crowd, even with just one car right in front of you.
Yeah, it really can, and it's always sketchy here on the first lap here, but it seems like the vast majority of the front of the field has got themselves strung out relatively single file as they head through Skyline for the first time here in this 30-minute event at Bathurst. There's not really all that much you can do around this section when it comes to trying to get the passes done. You're just having to sit there and wait before you get this get the traction out of the corner here and try and carry that advantage all the way down the straight towards the chase. We'll see who has the advantage in the slipstream this time around.
Dylan O'Shea had a scary moment at the top of McPhillamy Park. Oh, two of the Kiwis into each other on the exit of Forest Elbow. They're getting caught up and they're going to go down to the back of the bus. O'Shea managed to save the car at McPhillamy Park, was off in the dirt on the run towards Skyline and could have very quickly become the bowling ball between the two pins of Caruana and Ledger as they come out of the chase and down towards Murray's Corner for the first time in this 30-minute race. The look back from the rear bumper on Steen Ledger's vehicle, watching the first of the UK entries from Caruana down the main straight. Has only managed to pull out a 0.3 of a second advantage and is just going to have to stay in check here. These tyres take a little while to come on board and really start to fire up on these cars. And these first couple of laps, as we've seen already from a couple of cars getting caught up and losing control, can be pretty sketchy, especially around Mount Panorama.
Yeah, it can do. If there's one track where you don't want a sketchy handling car, it's probably this one, as we ride on board here with Caruana in towards Griffin's Bend for the second time in this event as they climb the mountain once again. Caruana continuing to apply the pressure here. Seems like Ledger has really dealt with it well at this stage. Of course, both of these drivers actually incredibly experienced when it comes to the iRacing side of things here. There's really no surprise that they are the two that are leading the field around here for the moment. We've got our first race control action of the event. Ryan McCullough causing an instant at the safety car on, well, lap 0, I guess technically is correct. Got a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty painful for Ryan there. We'll be rolling through pit lane with only a 30-minute race for the Tri-Nations Esports Cup, brought to you by Next Level Racing. We're not going to see pit stops, I believe. I think we're going to be racing them hard to the finish as a sprint with these Ferrari 488 Evo GT3 cars. We pick up now with Callan Chin, who's tucked up right behind the 948 of Michael Healy from New Zealand, one of the leading New Zealand cars inside the top 10 right now. Callan Chin, a very accomplished, very quick open wheel racer within iRacing. We've seen him well and truly at the pointy end of your iRacing World Championship status in various open wheel categories, F4 and F3. He's looking to the dirty side of the racetrack. Down through the chase, is going to be on the outside, but then gets the inside advantage at turn number 22 and picks off the spot up to position 8 here from Callan Chin. That's a very nice move in a very tight part and very fast part of the racetrack.
Yeah, very clean pass there from Chin, and actually his teammate Roberts down the inside of Healy as well. So Healy losing 2 spots in the space of a couple of corners here, which is not exactly ideal. There's a bit of flashing the lights going on here as well as we get the replay of the pass here from Roberts. Just going to be angling towards the inside for the final corner. Absolutely easy does it. Was there contact in the middle corner? Well, it's a bit of leading off it, but I think that's fair.
Yeah, that was a little bit tight. There was a bit of a late move from Benjamin Roberts, who is not usually known for his late moves in iRacing competition. You can see they're climbing all over the back of him, coming up mountain straight. They're trying to get the position back out of Griffin's Bend and up towards turns 3 and 4 at the cutting. But Benny Roberts now up to P9. One of the leading Australians. He only just scraped into the top 10, though, would you believe, in pre-qualifying. We held pre-qualifying a little while ago at Suzuka Circuit, so a track that they didn't have any laps on coming into these rounds, so no one really had a significant advantage with these actual combinations. But Benny Roberts, you would consider him to be, in Australian terms, one of the top drivers in the country, barely scraped in to make the top 10 to represent Australia.
But showing and proving that he has every single right to be here at the moment, especially with opportunistic moves like he pulled off just a couple of moments ago, solidifying himself inside of the top 10 here for the moment. All is well and good inside the Roberts cockpit here at the moment. Meanwhile, back towards the very front of the field, Ledger seemingly still can't shake Caruana. They half shake a no shake behind. There's a decent gap there, 1.3 seconds between the leading two and the third place position here at the moment, as these front two try to run away at the front of the field. But Caruana is definitely hot on Ledger's heels here.
Yeah, he's not giving up without a fight in this one. There's so many green and gold cars inside the top 10, 15 entries on track right now. Lockie Capel up there in P7, just absolutely harassing the rear bumper of Rick Kuznetsov as they go down the main straight into Hell Corner, hard on the brakes, right onto it, and actually finds himself almost firing through the rear bumper of Rick Kuznetsov. That was a bit late on the anchors for Lockie Capel, and Callan Chin is going to go past him here. So Callan takes advantage of that one, goes back to P7, up 2 spots from where he started. He's actually the leading of the drivers who's made any moves compared to their qualifying position. Your top 6 right now are exactly where they started from qualifying.
Yep, indeed they are, and of course we've got the positions gained and lost there on the left-hand side of the screen as well. Healy really struggling at this stage in the race. Had a decent qualifying, but it seems like the race pace leaves more to be desired, at least at these early stages. We still got more than half the race to go, so more than enough time for Healy to try and come back into this one for New Zealand. We've got Adam States there down in P19 at the moment. He's, well, not the biggest mover in the field, but he's the second biggest mover. He's up 7 spots here at the moment from where he started. Of course, he was one of those drivers that started near the back of the field in that instance. Same with Michael Bugemi there down in P21 as well. He's up 8 spots as our biggest mover.
Going to throw it out there, though, it's going to be pretty difficult for Ryan to make any further moves forward in this race. The pace that is being put down right now is so hard to make any impact, as we see Ledger has managed to break a little bit more of the gap there back to Caruana, out to almost half a second down Conrod Straight. You can watch the gap just getting whittled down by the aerodynamic advantage for Caruana. It's down to 3.5 tenths of a second by the time they get to the bottom of the chase. But Steen Ledger putting on a brilliant drive out front from the pole right now. We watch from the helicopter shot. What a shot that is in iRacing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Gives us a good overhead view of what's going on. It seems like in that final sector, Caruana is able to pull a lot of the time that he loses through the middle sector back. Of course, partially helped due to the slipstream down Conrad Straight, of course, and he's going to get another bunch of slipstream down the mountain straight here as well, especially with a good run through Hell Corner here. So Ledger has to be on his toes here. There might be a move coming in towards Griffin's Bend here from Caruana if he's not too careful. Let's see if that happens, as we see Ledger going, well, initially defensive towards the inside, but returns back to the normal racing line. In that entire situation, Caruana almost ran into the back of it.
It was very close there on the brakes into Griffin's Bend. You don't want to be taking too many risks like that by getting too close to the car in front. You never know, especially racing on almost opposite ends of the world, competing with who we're racing against here. You don't want to be taking too many risks with the netcode within iRacing, because a millimetre too far and the computer can decide that you're actually having a collision, and it can bring your race well and truly undone. Caruana tucking in behind as they come out of McPhillamy Park, up over the top of Brock Skyline here at Mount Panorama, one of the most picturesque parts of Australian motor racing, as they come down through the S's. That looks mighty close to the fence there for Matt Caruana. He's got to be careful he doesn't lose where the car is on track and tag the wall ever so slightly, because O'Shea and Leonage are going to be right on top of him, and he's going to have to nurse a potentially damaged car if he does so. We're just coming up on 10 minutes in to the first race for the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup, with, of course, a whole race left to go after this. We go back to your neck of the woods, Connery, up to Silverstone.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely can't wait for that. It's, of course, a different challenge for these drivers. Less of a technical circuit than this one, but still a whole bunch of fun, let me tell you that. Someone who potentially is not having so much fun at the moment here is Caruana, because he's lost that advantage that he had over O'Shea there down in 3rd place. So he's got an Australian car ahead. He's got 2 Australian cars breathing down his neck from behind as well. It's not a very comfortable situation to be in. And the pressure's on him here at the moment, because he is the top point scorer for the UK, and by a long shot, I might add. So a lot of the responsibility is resting on his shoulders here to try and deliver the goods here in this first race. So all of that might be factoring into the mentality here.
Yeah, Caruana's trying to call in the cavalry, but they're simply not coming. Meanwhile, O'Shea and Leonage have climbed right up onto the back. Here we get a shot of an incident from Luke Hiller. Well, that is a walking wounded Ferrari right now that has found the fence a couple of times, and a spin at Forest Elbow. He's just doing the classic rollback down Conrod Straight. We go back to the pointy end, and as we were saying, Caruana just finding himself jammed between a bunch of Aussies right now, with no help coming from his fellow countrymen to support him in this Tri-Nations Cup. And he just has to do what he can by himself, or almost showed up as a tag at the wall on the way into Skyline there, using every inch of the racetrack to maximise the corner speed. He's got the attack on across the top of the mountain, and he's brought the gap to within 0.3 of a second. He'll have to tow as they come out of Forest Elbow and onto Conrod Straight. It's at 3.8 of a second. Let's watch that gap come tumbling down as he gets the tow. And Steen Ledger just can't do anything about it, just watching in the rear mirror to see where Caruana might go. It's down to 3.2 now, underneath 0.3 of a second. They run out of straight as they hit the chase, and the gap bottoms out at about 2.3. You can see there on the bottom right of your screen. That's the lap-on-lap gap difference between your leaders, Ledger and Caruana, right now. And you can see just a few laps ago, Caruana was marginally quicker, but all the other laps he's been losing out by just a few thousandths of a second. 24 thousandths of a second on lap 4, 41 thousandths of a second on lap 5. The margins are uber tight right now, and Caruana goes through that time by with a 2:02.459. Was almost 0.08 of a second quicker on that lap. So Caruana's not done with it yet, and he has one of his better laps of the race so far.
Not done at all, but his situation hasn't been helped by the fact that Ledger is absolutely acing the exit to the Forest Elbow, absolutely every single time, which really reduces the chances of Caruana making a pass down the Conrod Straight much, much lower. We do have a battle in behind, though. Roberts and Allen deciding that, well, to get a little bit cozy out there on circuit. Allen continuing to apply the pressures. They climb the mountain here once again, but again, there's gonna be a lack of overtaking opportunities on this section of circuit. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating here, Chris, because if you are faster on this section, well, there's not really all that much you can do about it. It can be quite annoying for the driver in that aspect, and feeling like they're going to get held up.
There's no opportunities to make a move in the more technical sections of the racetrack. You really have to get the nose in front, get the elbows out, and send it at the bottom of the hill if you really want the position that bad. The I think second of the Kiwi drivers, Ewan Baker, currently leading the way for the New Zealand drivers. Hugo Allen back there in P10 right now, just trying to stay in touch with the rear bumper of Ben Roberts as they come into Forest Elbow and try and maximise the exit speed, get on the throttle nice and early without pushing the front end out towards the fence on the exit and damaging the car. We can see here he's just trying to get right in touch. The gap sitting between them at the moment, 3.4 of a second between Roberts back to Allen. Have to be within a couple of tenths to really get within striking distance. Will be the absolute last of the late breakers down at the bottom of the chase here. You can see closes up under brakes at the bottom of the chase, but just not close enough to make an impact. Might have an opportunity here at Murray's Corner, has a little look, but decides better of it and stays back into P10, while Benny Roberts consolidates P9 here in this race. We're about to cross the halfway point. 15.5 minutes to go here for this first race for the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup.
Race is bubbling along quite nicely indeed. Returning towards the front runners though, Ledger still leads from Caruana. 0.3 of a second is the gap. It's been fluctuating in and out over the last couple of laps, but there's still really been a lack of opportunities for Caruana to try and capitalize on at the moment. Ledger managing this race very well from the front, managing the pace, and also making sure he can keep his teammates in contention there in behind as well. So it's a great position for Team Australia to be in here at the moment. And, you know, as a result, you might have to think about at this stage, you know, do they really want to fight Caruana that hard? Team UK is not doing very well, except for Matt. Do you just sort of, you know, let him go at this point? Not let him go in terms of the race lead, but just sort of don't really fight him too hard because Team Australia have all the points at the moment.
Well, and as well, if you find yourself fighting too hard, one little misstep, one little mistake, and you can send yourself losing 2 spots, even more if you find yourself off the racetrack. So Caruana's better off right now just to stay where he is, play the smart game, play the long game. May have to lose the battle here at Mount Panorama to have a chance at winning the war and getting some points back when they go to Silverstone in a little while's time this afternoon.
How much does home field advantage factor into this, Chris? Because we usually see, you know, in other parts of sim racing, in iRacing, the Australian drivers really come to the forefront on their home track of Bathurst. Do you think that advantage is going to switch for Silverstone, or does everyone know Silverstone like the back of their hand?
I think if you're an Australian iRacer and you haven't done 1,000 laps of Bathurst, you're not really an Australian iRacer. So there's definitely a home field advantage going on here for the Aussies right now. I think it's yet to be seen whether that will translate to help the British drivers when we go to Silverstone. The ones who are missing out, of course, are the Kiwis, the New Zealand drivers. We don't have a New Zealand track in iRacing just yet, although Pukekohe is meant to be coming down the pipeline. But they're the ones who kind of have an average performance at each of the tracks if they don't have a home field advantage in this Esports Cup.
Yeah, they've definitely drawn the short straw here. And, well, the UK has also kind of drawn the short straw here because we have to pick a server to host the race on. And, well, the UK are racing, obviously, you know, from Britain, but the server is in Sydney. So that's a very high ping. However, other drivers have said in the little Discord chat that we have going, it's well, it's time for the European drivers to get a taste of their own medicine when it comes to racing online now, because they don't usually race on Australian servers.
Well, that's it, and we're trying to get the opportunity to actually be maybe on the right side of the netcode equation this time around. And sometimes it's pretty brutal for Aussie racers getting in on it as we follow along at the moment. Watching Jamie Stovold right now, one of the leading drivers for the Kiwis. I think there's only 2 in front of him. Would be Allen and Ewan Baker, who's just on the last spot in the top 5. So the Kiwis making their presence felt well and truly, with 3 of them ahead of the majority of the British drivers in this Tri-Nations Cup right now. Stovold just watching the rear bumper of Daniel Yeaman. Yeaman's up 3 spots to position 11, and Stovold's kind of been stuck where he is, starting 12th and still running in position number 12 as they come through the chase to the bottom of the hill. Hard on the brakes. It's such a huge amount of energy you have to dissipate through the brakes at the bottom of the hill there. With a blind entry to the corner, a little misstep on the way in can send you careening off into the sand trap if you're not careful. With 11 minutes and 30 seconds left to go here at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, I've seen many a large incident down in towards the braking zone for the chase, not just in sim racing, but of course in the real world as well. Seems to be a very, very tricky spot indeed. The front 3 still going along well. Caruana still unable to draw himself alongside or really even get that close to really having a chance to even show the nose here at the moment. It's been an expert drive from Ledger to try and keep him at bay here for the moment. Of course, we still have just shy of less than 11 minutes left to go. So it's time for Caruana to get this done. Still time for O'Shea potentially to get himself up in towards 2nd place as well. Don't count him out at all. He's been lurking there in the wings and perhaps waiting for a time to strike.
Dylan O'Shea is a phenomenally aggressive racer, especially in the open wheel ranks from what I've seen over the years as well. So don't be surprised if he starts to really get the elbows out inside this final 10 minutes. He is right on the back of Caruana now. Leonage has been dropped off this battle. He's on the outside looking in back there in P4 right now, but Dylan is finding another gear here. He dropped the best lap of the race a moment ago, 2:02.310 for Dylan O'Shea. That's after all this time that we've been racing, and he's now found himself right on the back of Caruana and maybe getting within striking distance to make a move and step up to support his mate Steen Ledger as your race leader.
It's going to be tough if Caruana has the draft to try and keep him at bay for the moment. Into the braking zone for the chase once again. Everything line astern, nose to tail, heading their way through these apexes here for the moment. None of these drivers have really put a foot wrong so far. It's really great to see these guys on the absolute top of their game here for the moment. But will there be any action here inside the final 10 minutes in and amongst this front three? I get the feeling there will be. I get the feeling that they're just holding back just a little bit here for a little bit of a finale. Of course, when it comes to a final lap here, sometimes a high draft circuit such as this, you don't necessarily want to be leading on the final lap when push comes to shove, but from what Ledger has shown so far, he seems to have no problems keeping the draft at bay.
Well, the benefit of being the lead driver at Mount Panorama is you don't have to worry about your vision being obstructed by a car in front of you as you go through the really tight and twisty sections across the top of the mountain. So that's where you can actually see the advantage go the other way, and that's where Ledger is actually putting in really solid amounts of work to maintain that lead. He pulls out the half a tenth required to keep the lead through the top of the mountain, but then he loses that half a tenth by not having the draft as they come down Conrod Straight. That's where you see the ebb and flow of the gaps right now if you're keenly watching the timing on the left-hand side of your screen as we watch this solid battle going on. That's why Steen Ledger has been able to hold on to the race lead, because he doesn't have to worry about how close am I to the fence right now if your vision's obstructed, whereas Caruana and O'Shea are definitely having to play that game, maybe slightly more conservative across the top of the mountain, as we saw one of the Kiwi cars, Hugo Allen, getting very close to the fence and starting to close right up onto the back of a trio of Aussies right now, Chin, Capel and Roberts, coming down Conrod Straight.
I believe Capel might have just tapped the wall a little bit here, so it might cause a little bit of a shuffle there inside of the top 10 on the way down in towards the chase. Just saw them fan out just a little bit there, which was a little bit of a cause for concern there, but it seems like they've all sorted it out now. Chin still leads that particular group in there, so not really a change in and amongst those four cars, but that's how easy it can happen sometimes. All it takes is you to graze the wall a little bit, and all of a sudden you've ruined your run out of the Forest Elbow, and you're a sitting duck on the Conrod Straight down towards the kink, and of course in towards the chase as well. And well, that's not even mentioning the potential aero damage that you might get.
Absolutely, and how close is this battle that we watch right now? We're seeing a bit of the driver of the day battle going on as well. There's votes coming in for Luke Hiller and Ryan Leonage right now. They're tied at a single vote apiece. So make sure you get on board and vote for your driver of the day, because the winner will take away a Next Level Racing HF8 haptic force feedback seat, or haptic feedback gaming chair, worth 800 Australian dollars. That's 400 pounds or 900 New Zealand dollars. As a move on at the cutting, they're trying to get the elbows out here, and they're trying to keep Hugo Allen behind in P10. This trio of Australians, as we're getting a bit more action coming here. We can actually track the nations now on the left-hand side of your screen as we'll continue to populate them. The coloured band representing the countries that they're coming from, and there's a lot of yellow for the Australians inside the top 15 drivers.
Yeah, any Australian fans at home will very much enjoy the display of gold there towards the very top of the timing screen. One Australian driver that didn't have a great lap so far is Chin, because he lost the 2 positions to his 2 teammates there. I'm not sure if he was just struggling on that particular lap, or if he has a bit of damage that he's having to try and nurse here for the moment. He was coming under front from Allen in and amongst that sequence, but has recovered it somewhat and is able to file back in line with the golden green here on the way in towards the chase. But yeah, it was a sketchy moment there because, of course, you know, you do sometimes have the tendency to get freight trained if you get caught offline.
As we watch Jamie Stovall for a moment, just working through. Stovall currently position 12. One of the Kiwi drivers was third out of the New Zealand drivers who pre-qualified at Suzuka, and currently is the third New Zealand driver on track. So that pre-qualifying time really translating quite well to real-world pace here at Mount Panorama right now. As we continue on, Lockie Capel just at the head of this little pack. He said you might have seen him tag the ballers. There's a move for the lead. Ledger on the back foot. Now Caruana goes for the move. And right on the battle is Dylan O'Shea trying to get involved in the fight as well. So the single British driver upsets the top of the throne here for the Aussies at the lead of this race with just under 5 minutes to go. And for the first time so far, Steen Ledger finds himself not leading this race. Here's a replay of the move. Look at Ledger looking for his position on the racetrack. O'Shea in the background, ducking and weaving, trying to find a place to position the car. But that was a textbook move from Caruana to grab the race lead.
Great stuff indeed. Such a huge amount of commitment down the inside of there of Griffins. It does tend to tighten up there on the exit in terms of the spacing that you have with the curb and the wall on the outside. But Caruana timed it to perfection. That pass was 2 laps in the making. 2 laps ago, he set the fastest lap of the race. A lap ago, he was basically a couple of hundredths off of that fastest lap. So Caruana really pulling pedal to the metal here at the moment, and he's trying to break away from Ledger. 0.4 of a second is closing in due to the draft here. Has Caruana timed it right?
You would have to say, typically you would wait a little bit later in the race to avoid having any opportunity for the other drivers to counter, but Caruana, with a stroke of brilliance right there, up Mountain Straight, might have gone at exactly the right time into Murray's Bend, with 3.5 minutes left to go to come across the line. And Caruana holding the race lead. Here's a move here from Hugo Allen, looking hard up the inside of Callan Chin. Callan's not going to give him that much room, and he's not going to send the invitation twice, is he? And Callan will hold on to position number 9, and Hugo has to look for another way around.
Yeah, Chin struggling with a bit of damage there on the front left, and oh, a little bit of a moment there coming out of Hell Corner as well. That's going to ruin his run down the mountain straight here. You can see the advantage that that Kiwi car just has the edge in terms of the straight line speed. Of course, these cars identical, they're fixed setups. It's just the damage that's the major difference, and the mistake out of that corner for Callan Chin that's made that pass happen for Allen. So Allen up in towards P9 for Team New Zealand. A couple of points in the bag there here at the very end of this race at Bathurst. Caruana, half a second advantage at the very front of the field.
All 3 nations represented in the top 5 right now. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, but the top 5 has been dominated by the Australians. Caruana just dropping a wheel on the top of the mountain coming out of McPhillamy Park. Had to check up without firing it into the fence. That brings Ledger back into the fight. Just under 0.4 of a second the margin. He needs a little bit more to be able to close up that gap. There's Lockie Capel actually lighting the track up with hot laps. A 2:01.9 for Lachlan. He's trying desperately to hang on to that position further back. We watch this battle for the race lead though down Conrod Straight. And you can see Ledger's even getting on the lights, trying to just momentarily distract Caruana and put him off balance here. 2.5 of a second. He's got a huge toe coming down towards the chase. 1.5, and he's not going to look to the inside. He's not close enough to get alongside under brakes. Caruana getting very late on the brakes at the bottom of the hill. That's playing to his advantage because it's the counter and the defense to any charge you can mount, getting the toe down the hill.
Coming across the line then to start the final lap. It's 1:22 on the clock. They're doing 2-minute 2s in terms of the lap times here. Can Caruana hold on to it for the UK race win? Of course, the vast majority of the points currently heading the way of Australia here for the very moment. So this, no matter how this race lead turns out, I think Team Australia will be very happy with their performance here at Bathurst. Caruana has the gap in towards Griffin's Bend to try and make sure that the move doesn't happen down the inside there. And onto the mountain they come for the final time. Ledger attempting to try and keep up, making sure that that rear bumper of that UK car doesn't get too far down the road, just so that he has an opportunity, at least maybe a look at the end in towards the chase.
That's going to be really his final chance to make a charge here. Caruana driving an absolutely brilliant race out from the lone UK driver, anywhere higher than position 17 right now. That's the next of the UK drivers. Adam State all the way down the order in position 17. Matt Caruana is leading the charge, absolutely unassisted as they head across the top of the mountain. Here's a replay here of Caruana just getting it a little bit close to the fence at the top of Skyline. Just scrapes the paint off the left-hand side wall on the top of Brock Skyline, but lives to fight another day as we hit Conrod Straight for the final time here in the first race of the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup. He's bested the Aussies who out-qualified him, and leading the charge for the UK-based drivers, Matt Caruana down the chase for the final time. Steen Ledger can't do anything about it. Might have an opportunity at Murray's Corner if Caruana's a little bit too cautious on the brakes. But I think it is going to go the way of the Brit.
I think it is as well. Caruana able to pull off that pass just a couple of laps ago, and now he heads his way across the line as the winner of race 1 here in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup, brought to you by Next Level Racing. The race win goes to the UK, but you have to say the advantage goes to the boys in green and gold here for Australia as they pick up a mountain of points here on the mountain.
A mountain of points on the mountain. That's exactly right. They may not have won the battle, but they are currently leading the war as Caruana picks up the win. Ledger second, Dylan O'Shea third, Brown Leonage in fourth. The first of the Kiwis, Ewan Baker, coming home with a P5 run. A great drive for Ewan. Rick Kuznetsov home in position number 6. Lockie Capel P7. Benjamin Roberts up 2 spots from where he started into position number 8. It's worth noting that positions 3 through 7 finished exactly where they qualified. The only change inside the top 7 positions was Caruana and Ledger swapping around for 1 and 2 respectively. Hugo Allen, the next of the Kiwis, in position number 9, and Callan Chen rounding out your top 10, the Aussies. Here's a look at how the move happened that decided the overall standings for the race. Caruana making a late dive to the inside into Griffin's Bend, parked it on the apex beautifully, and held out Steen Ledger to the outside. That was important right there and crucial to keep Steen on the outside line, and inviting Dylan O'Shea to have a little peekaboo and try and make his run towards the front. And that handed the win to Matt Caruana to take it out for race 1 of the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup. Can we just take a moment here? Take a moment, Connery, to take your breath and settle in, because we're going to have a few moments here. We're going to get the opportunity to chat to your winners and your top few drivers. We've got one waiting in the green room right now while we check things out. We'll get a look at the final results here for the first race of the Tri-Nations Esports Cup.
Matt Caruana takes it by 3/10 of a second over Ledger. Then you got Dylan O'Shea getting himself on the podium there as well. Double podium for Australia, the vast majority of the top 10 for Australia. As you see the names heading their way down, Leonage there, Baker, Kuznetsov there, Cable. We've got Roberts, Allen, Chin, that round out the top 10. Chin doing very well to hold on to a top 10 finish, in fact, because of the damage that he sustained to the front left of the car. Only ended up losing positions to his teammates, which doesn't really matter in terms of the grand scheme of things, because Australia are going to be scoring the same points anyway. The one to Allen might hurt a little bit there, as New Zealand will end up possibly, in fact, probably going to be coming out P2 in terms of points at the end of this one, but we'll get the double check in terms of that in just a couple of moments. We got Daniel Yeaman there in P11. You got Stovall, Healy, Cleland. We've got Serrano, Mara, State, and Janssen rounding out those positions. And then those drivers further down the field that really struggled here today. And a good contingent of the UK cars actually not finishing on the leading lap there. That one's going to be a bitter pill to swallow for Team UK.
So here's a look at the points, how they stand. Not surprisingly, the points looking identical to how the race results. Matt Caruana taking away 30 points for his efforts here at Mount Panorama. Steen Ledger to second, Dylan O'Shea in third. I can tell you by the live predictions that we have in the background, thanks to FRG and Race Stars TV, Australia, not surprisingly, leading the charge on 117 points for the Nations Cup. New Zealand, second on 44 points. And the UK, a stout third with 30 points to the name so far after the first of 2 races. We do have a green room and we only have one driver. We'll take the opportunity to chat to your first race winner, Matt Caruana. Congratulations, jumping in the broadcast studio. That's the race win with a brilliant dive bomb at Griffin's Bend.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was a good race. It was difficult to keep up with Steen. It's really fast, but then managed to catch up towards the end of the race, and saw the opportunity. Had to go for it.
How dicey was it running, knowing that you're leading the charge for the UK drivers right now? Your next nearest driver to help you out was down in 17th position. Were you feeling the pressure of being surrounded by that many Aussies at once?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Dylan behind me as well, it was all about like making sure he didn't go for the move, and also trying to get past Steen, especially with the servers as well. They're all like moving about all over the place and netcode in the walls. So yeah, it was really difficult.
How much of the netcode are you actually seeing? Because there's a few times from our broadcast position where we're actually watching your car and you're tagging a wall and your fender gets crumpled in, then it kind of resets a split second later. So how much more buffer do you have to give the walls in these kind of circumstances when you're racing from the UK on a Sydney-based server?
Well, yeah, for me, especially when there's Australian servers, it's like I'm just trying to keep a little bit more of a gap to the car in front and just drive my lines. But then when Steen like netcodes the wall or whatever, I have to, just be careful and look out for it, because it can be a bit distracting sometimes. But yeah.
Well, congratulations, you managed to come away with the race win. Do you think that there's an element of home track advantage from what we've seen so far for the Aussies?
Well, I mean, they were all up there in the first one, so yeah, I hope for a good race in this one. A bit more of like a draft track, more opportunity for a proper race. So yeah, it should be fun.
So is that then in turn the prediction for the next race is that you're going to have a few more UK friends up in the pointy end of the field?
I hope so.
You need a friend to give you a tow at this point.
Yeah.
Connery, anything to add, my friend?
Yeah, well, Matt, you're optimistic heading into Silverstone, especially considering how well you were running with the Aussies at the front of the field here at Bathurst. Do you think you can repeat the same performance, or is it going to be even more of a struggle than it was here?
Yeah, I think it will probably be more difficult here with the long straights, opportunities to overtake, adding on with the netcode and everything. Yeah, it's going to be quite difficult, I think, but hopefully it will be all okay and we can have a good race.
Well, absolutely fantastic to talk to you. I'll leave you, get yourself ready, get yourself prepared and switched on over into the new server. Best of luck for the next race.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. That was Matt Caruana there. Yeah, P1.
It was a solid drive as well, especially considering he doesn't have any help. No one to call in and say, hey, can you slow these guys up, or can you attack a little bit and maybe distract them a fair amount. When the next closest driver is 17th on the racetrack, you definitely feel like you're mounting a fairly lone charge at the pointy end of the field. We've got some fantastic prizes on offer for this event. Thanks to Next Level Racing, of course, the overall winner, based on points from the 2 races being held today, will take away a Next Level Racing GT Elite Light Wheel Plate Edition. That's a lot to swallow. Plus a Next Level Racing ES1 seat with a grand total value of over 1,600 Australian dollars. That's in excess of £815 or 1,735 New Zealand dollars worth of prize pack on offer for the overall winner. But that's not all, Connery. We got prizes up for grabs for each of the top drivers from each of the respective nations as well.
Yeah, it's worth recapping this, of course. You know, like you mentioned, we got the prizes for the overall winner, the one driver that takes home the prize at the very end in terms of points. But, you know, we have been focusing a little bit on the whole team situation as well, because it's not often you necessarily get this with a lot of drivers from that one team all competing in these races. You might get one or two drivers as part of a constructor, but with a format like this, it's always worth noting. But yes, every single driver in the winning team gets themselves an exhilarating GT track, which is fantastic to see. It's a great prize on offer. Currently, Team Australia are definitely leading the pack when it comes to that, but of course, all things can change once we head into that second race. Of course, Team UK are looking to try and bounce back from their less than stellar performance here at Bathurst. Maybe going onto a home track would really land them in good stead. But also, don't sleep on New Zealand either. They had a couple of solid finishers here at Bathurst, so they might still be lurking in the background to strike at Silverstone once we get to it. So we're shaping up to have a fantastic second race here. Of course, we've also got potentially that overall winner battle between potentially Caruana, potentially Ledger. Of course, those are the two main protagonists that we've seen so far. But again, given there's only 2 races in this event, that can change completely if either one or both have an issue.
Anyone who's really finished anywhere near the top 5 giving themselves a stout advantage heading into this second race. So you don't count out the likes of Ewan Baker, who is actually tied with Ryan Leonage right now, leading the driver of the day votes. Check the link in the video description. 6 votes apiece for driver of the day right now between Ewan Baker and Rayhan Leonage, and they are both hot in the running to win themselves a Next Level Racing HF8 haptic feedback gaming chair worth over 800 Australian dollars. That's £400 or 900 New Zealand dollars worth of prize on offer. And it's all voted by you guys watching the stream right now. We've got votes coming in as we speak. We've got votes for Luke Hiller coming in as well, and Jamie Stoffald on the board as well, with 4 and 3 votes apiece so far. 6 votes apiece for Ewan Baker and Rayhan Leonage. So plenty more votes yet to come. We'll be tallying that up at the end of the racing coming up as we just swap servers and we find ourselves floating over the top of Silverstone.
Yeah, absolutely. We are here in the UK at perhaps the jewel in the crown of British motorsport, Silverstone. Absolutely fantastic circuit, a wealth of overtaking opportunities around here. It really promotes that side-by-side racing action that we all crave, and it will play host to the finale here of the Tri-Nations Esports Cup, powered by Next Level Racing. We're just coming towards the very end of a little practice, a little warm-up here before we get ourselves into qualifying. For Team Australia, it's got to be business as usual, at least compared to Bathurst, if they want to take the Teams Championship. For Team UK, of course, they have to bounce back here at that home circuit. And of course, Team Australia, New Zealand, what can they do here in the final race of the race day? Still a lot of stories to be told here at Silverstone. And of course, we have that currently head-to-head battle between Caruana and Ledger. But we'll see if that's the same situation once we get to the end of the qualifying, to see if another name can get themselves inside the top 2.
Well, it's not really the greatest surprise that we actually have Caruana and Ledger showing up towards the top of your practice times at the moment, according to your timing tower on the left-hand side. But we'll let them filter through and we'll pick them up in qualifying coming up very soon. Ewan Baker and Hugo Allen, your leading Kiwis at the moment, trying to tip their hat into the ring here at Silverstone. 5.89 kilometers and 18 turns. But as we highlighted coming out of Mount Panorama here, Connery, it's a very different circuit in how you can manage the racing. And already Matt Caruana was alluding to that in our post-race interview. There's a lot more opportunities to actually utilize the draft here. Despite probably having less overall length of straights, you can use them better to your advantage and get up the inside.
Well, look, there's ample opportunity at the end of these straights to try and get it done. Of course, at the end of the Wellington Straight, heavy braking zone. At the end of the Hangar Straight, not so heavy braking zone, but we do see a lot of pass attempts coming in towards Stowe, and then on the brakes into the chicane at Vale and Club. So those are the two main points on the circuit to really be looking at. We've also got potentially the opportunity to stuff it down the inside at Luffield as well. So a wealth of chances as we get ourselves qualifying started. Drivers getting out there on circuit now. Of course, it's in their best interest to go out as a country group so that they can all slipstream off of each other to try and get the best qualifying time. And well, that's what we're seeing currently from a couple of the Australian drivers, couple of New Zealanders. Not all that many Team UK cars out there at the moment. Maybe they're getting themselves organised.
Just all jumping into the chat and deciding who's going to lead the pack, because really, as the leader of the pack in a tow situation, you become the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, and you have to take one for the team just a little bit. We follow Hugo Allen on the outlap right now. Hugo was P9 in the first race and finds himself with a pretty good haul of points coming into this second race here from Silverstone. So the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup, combining the best drivers, the best 10 drivers who pre-qualified from all three nations, from the UK, New Zealand and Australia, put on by the three respective motorsports federations as well. This is a great initiative to put together the best of the iRacers, and there's a lot of drivers in here that dabble in real-world motorsports as well, especially the young drivers making their way through the very early days of junior formula and even the upper echelon of karting in their respective regions. This is a great opportunity to put them on the pedestal and put them on the live stream, racing against the best drivers from the other countries in pursuits to have bragging rights. And at the moment, it's the Australians, who I can happily say are doing quite well in this one.
Yeah, they are indeed. But yeah, you can laugh. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here, it's like, come on, UK boys, we can get a good points haul here at Silverstone, right? It's our home circuit, but we will just have to wait and see. But it's important to note, you know, the topic that you raised there, Chris, with these drivers not only being sim racers, but also dipping their toes in towards the real life side of things as well. It's fantastic to see. Of course, Hugo Allen in the New Zealand team being one of them. He's actually recently received the contract to race in the Toyota G86 series in the real world in New Zealand, which is an absolutely fantastic opportunity. We have many other opportunities in sim racing potentially to get these guys transferred over into the real world. It's happened time and time again now. You know, I used to be able to count the amount of sim racers that went into the real world on 2 hands, but now I need like 15 hands because there's been so many, and it's a great development and learning opportunity for these drivers, you know, especially considering the fact that it's so expensive to get into real world racing. You're talking thousands and thousands of whatever currency you want to name to try and get into karting for a season, and even then there's no guarantee that you'll be able to get anywhere. But with sim racing, it's such a low barrier to entry that we might be seeing talents out there getting themselves a good shot at getting a real world drive when they might not have been able to finance it previously. And that is one of the special things about sim racing. It levels the playing field in that aspect, so no one is necessarily that much more advantaged than another.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there, and I'm going to poach a saying used by my good friend Dave Roberts, who's sitting in the stewards room right now. I commentate with him on Tuesday nights on a regular basis, and he puts it like this. He says, sim racing is the new grassroots. For the cost of building your rig and having that available at home is still cheaper than and potentially funding a single national event in the Australian Karting Championship, for example. And so you can foster talent and get an theoretically infinite amount of seat time from your simulator rig, and now the opportunities are coming up through events like this, the Tri-Nations Esports Cup, thanks to Next Level Racing, and through various other initiatives all around the world, that you can actually have the opportunity to showcase your driving on a national or on an international platform, and potentially, if you're good enough and if the stars align, kickstart a career to launch into the real world of racing. We're being told in the background that there's some updates coming through for the vote of driver of the day, and a surge in votes for Ewan Baker He must have some Kiwi friends watching at home right now, because he went from tied at 6 votes apiece with Brand Leonage to now leading the fight on 11 votes. You can see that at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So jump on the link in the video description. I'm sure Luke's been actually smashing it in the live chat for all the video streams as well. And you can tag on the link and vote for your driver of the day. And they might be very happy with you if you do, because they could potentially take away a brand new Next Level Racing HF8 haptic feedback gaming chair for their troubles. We'll get tucked into what's actually going on track here. How about that, Connery? Matt Caruana leading the way here in qualifying.
Yep, and joined by McAuliffe. Another Team GP car getting themselves towards the front of qualifying here. Of course, we saw McAuliffe at Bathurst not set himself a lap time, which is why he was languishing down towards the back of the field and really, quite frankly, unable to make that much forward progress. But now he joins currently his teammate on the front row of Caruana, but we haven't had a representative lap time come in yet from Ledger, so we'll have to wait for that to come in before we can really talk in absolutes here. But things looking a little bit better for Team UK in this one. But we'll see how things shake up here with the final 4 minutes left in qualifying. Australia already have a decent contingent inside that top 5.
We're following along with Steen Ledger right now. All eyes on the Australian driver, just making his way through Maggots and Beckett's and actually pulling off to the outside here. So he's potentially playing the game and looking to set himself up to get a tow run and try and find his way on the racetrack. Just tagging onto the back of Rohan Leonage, who just goes through to position number 8 with the first flying laps showing up for Rohan, a 159.882 to go into the 8th spot. And Caruana still on top there with a 158.885, just coming across the start-finish stripe now and improved slightly, 158.842 for Matt Caruana to still hold on to the top spot. McAuliffe into second with a 159.4. So there's a 0.6 of a second difference between pole and second right now. The two GB drivers looking at locking up the front row of the grid. Hugo Allen, the Kiwi, into third now with 159.45, flying the flag for the New Zealanders. And the first of the Australians, Daniel Yeaman, showing up position 4. But there is definitely a higher frequency of UK drivers starting to use that home field advantage to work their way inside the top half of the field.
Yeah, Ledger still not yet setting a time. Time is of the essence here at the moment. Maybe a couple of invalidated laps at the start of the session has really ruined Ledger's run here for the moment. Same with Kalen Chin as well, one of those drivers that we saw at least making moves in the early stages of race number 1. Of course, fell towards the back due to damage later on in the race, as we see a couple of cars spun out into the grass and the gravel there. So their laps are definitely going to be over after an instance like that. But as we see Steen Ledger head his way through here for the moment, Baker gets himself up in towards P8, so a top 10 qualifying position so far for the New Zealander, as well as, of course, the lead of the driver of the day at the moment.
Yeah, he was struggling to set himself a lap, was Ewan Baker, but he finally parks it inside the top 10 with just about a minute and a half left to go. The pressure is starting to mount for Steen Ledger, the Australian, yet to set a time. He's joined by Benjamin Roberts, Matthew Pluck, Michael Healy, Callan Chin, all yet to set themselves a lap here as we follow Steen Ledger charging up towards Stowe Corner and trying to maximise these last couple of corners. It can be make or break down at the Vale chicane. Hard on the brakes to fire at the quick transition left and right. And right now you're thinking about, when can I squeeze the pedal, get the power on through club and open up the exit of the final corner? Can Steen Ledger park himself in the field somewhere? He goes rocketing up the order to number 2 for Steen Ledger. That'll do, number 2 for the Australian. Callan Chin also does a solid job on this lap, goes up to position number 7. Ben Roberts still yet to set a lap as we follow along with Jack Mara, the quite achieving Kiwi, who's used to running some pretty flamboyant liveries, has to run with the country livery for this one. Jack down in position number 20 right now, looking to try and set himself into the field, but he is taking the slow and wide line around the final couple of corners. I think he has called it a day here in this qualifying session, or trying to start a flying lap, but I think he might have just timed himself out and missed out on getting through as the clock struck 0. He might get away with it.
Yeah,
sometimes timing on one side or the other can be a couple of seconds out, but he was running it pretty fine in what looked like the start of a flying lap attempt.
Well, the timing line here at Silverstone is basically right on the exit of Club Corner there. So I think he is good, is Mara. So he'll get this opportunity to improve position on P21 on the starting grid here at the moment. Kuznetsov there up into P6 with a decent qualifying time in the very dying moments of the session. Of course, Ledger has an extra lap here as well to try and go for that pole position. But again, you're starting to be concerned about taking the tyres past their best here at this stage. Track temperature is only 22 degrees Celsius here. We are later in the evening in sim time here, around about 6:30 in the evening. So the track temp definitely past its hottest here, as it'll be much kinder to the tyres as a result here. Mara continuing on his lap here for New Zealand. Caruana has brought it down on towards the pit lane. He's not going to improve on his lap time whatsoever as Mara continues on here, as we see Allen getting himself up onto P3. We got the 3 different countries represented in the top 3 here in qualifying.
How incredible is that for Hugo Allen, parking it to the second row of the grid provisionally so far. Mara's still on the charge. He's now been dropped to position number 22. Callan Chin also had a solid run up to position 4 on his final flying lap. We've only got a few drivers left on track there. Steen Ledger has parked it and called it a day as we follow Jack Mara through the Vale chicane. Now squeezing the throttle through Club and staring down at that line to see where he can park it in the field for Jack Mara. He goes across the line and goes to P12 with a 1:59.7 for Jack Mara. Solid job for the Kiwi driver. That puts him as the number 4 Kiwi in the field, right behind and right in the middle actually of 2 of his countrymen, Ewan Baker and Harry McDonald, 11, 12 and 13 respectively. But pole goes to your race 1 winner, Matt Caruana, setting the fastest time to start from position number 1, and he's joined by second place from race 1, Steen Ledger, the first of the Australians, on the outside of the front row.
It's by just shy of 0.04 of a second at the end of the session as well that Caruana was able to score this pole position for the UK. Meanwhile, Steen Ledger, of course, on the front row as well for Australia, and Hugo Allen with a blistering lap time gets that New Zealand car up onto the second row of the starting grid. Callan Chin starting from a great position as well there in 4th place. Then you've got Ryan Mikulev there for the UK starting in 5th. Then you've got Daniel Yeaman there in P6 with Rehan Leonage there in P7. Kuznetsov starts in P8 with Capel in P9. Then you've got Taylor starting in P10. Ewan Baker, current driver of the day leader, starts in P11 for Team New Zealand. Jack Mara will start in 12th alongside his teammate. Further back through the field, you got Harry McDonald for New Zealand starting in P13. Steve Janssen there in P14. Tao Serrano starts in 15th place with Adam State starting in 16th. Dylan O'Shea, not an ideal qualifying performance, at least compared to Bathurst. He'll start in P17. Hamish Clellens there in P18. Healy, Rodrigo, Stevens, Stovald, Hogan and Pluck will round out the top 24 drivers as we get a jet view of Silverstone. That's something I've never seen before.
Oh, that's classic Race Stars TV. Luke on the controls in the background giving us the second best seat in the house over the top of Silverstone. And as we wait for the start here, it is.
Yeah.
Right on board with the Spitfire as we get set for the second race for the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Cup. As we are running down these few seconds before we are set to get underway. I'm waiting nervously, actually, hoping that we'll go back to the starting grid because we'll be getting set to go to the race, as it does look like we now get underway with the formation. They start a little bit further behind, of course, using the Ferrari 488 Evo GT3 car They start in formation for a rolling start. And we've started the formation lap quite a fair way back around the circuit. So we'll get everyone rolling up to speed here as they come down towards the Vale chicane. And we'll be set to go for 30 minutes of racing for the second race of the day here from Silverstone.
Here we go then, as they wind their way through the final couple of corners here at Silverstone. Caruana will bring them to the race start. It's green flag racing here for the final time at Silverstone as we charge our way down in towards turn number 1. Top 6 or so immediately single file down in towards the first sector here. And Caruana already trying to break away. Meanwhile, Allen coming under pressure as McAuliffe sends one down the inside at Chin through the first sector. And Chin will come back at him on the inside here just before we get to the Wellington Straight. We've got the 2 Australian cars going side by side in the background. There's Netsov and Yeaman battling for that position as we look back from Kalen Chin. And look at how big that UK Ferrari is from behind.
Yeah, he's even having a little wiggle of the tyres, trying to get a bit more heat in the tyres in the early stage of the race, right up onto his bumper, under brakes at the end of the Wellington Straight as we now snail our way around the long, trundling right-hander at Luffield and out of Woodcote onto the old main straight here at Silverstone. We're watching Kalen Chin, who is red hot under pressure from McAuliffe in the early stages of the first flying lap. Your 3 nations represented in the top 3 on track right now. Caruana from the UK leading the way. Ledger to second. And Hugo Allen, the first of the New Zealand drivers, in third as we make our way to Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. Matt Caruana using home field advantage to help him out from the pole here. Daniel Yeaman having a good run into position 6. He was really on the back foot, side by side with fellow countryman Rick Kuznetsov in the opening few corners. I was lucky that they sorted it out and settled back down a little bit. And Adam States, who was the second of the British drivers, now going 3 wide at Stowe, lives to tell the tale in a hot pursuit battle with Dylan O'Shea and Teo Sorono right now. Down into Vale, O'Shea up the inside. He gets the elbows out. Dylan O'Shea using a bit of his aggressive style to good purpose as he moves up a spot now to P15. He's having to recover from that less than favourable qualifying after being so solid in the first race at Bathurst.
Yeah, it was a surprising qualifying for the wrong reasons for him, but trying to get that recovery going already. We might have McAuliffe versus Chin Part 2 on the way through the loop, and coming up through Aintree now on towards the Wellington Straight once again. I don't think McAuliffe will have the advantage here with the drop on the brakes in towards Brooklands, just a little bit too far back as far as I'm concerned there. So we'll have to wait and try and make that opportunity another day. We've got ourselves an update in terms of the driver of the day. It's Ewan Baker still leading by, well, with 42.6% as we have battle out there on circuit. Baker trying to keep an Australian at bay. That's Lineage.
And Lineage is tucked in. He's the meat and the sandwich of 2 Kiwis right now between Ewan Baker and Jack Burrow, while Rehan holds second in the driver of the day voting. He looks to the inside through turn 1, but has to give up the spot and tuck back in behind for second, and is now actually on the outside and is about to get forced down by 2 spots by a pair of Kiwis, but tucks in and will lose just 1 spot to Jack Murrah as they go through the chicanes at Maggots and Beckett's. This is some very hot racing here down the hanger straight, and look at how Adam State just tucks in behind, gets the advantage of the toe, then pulls out to get a bit of clean air and a good braking position. Actually opened up the entry to the corner at Stowe very nicely. We knew Silverstone would produce some better racing and more opportunities, but this racing is almost going 3-4 wide into the Vale chicane.
Oh, and a little bit of contact between McDonald and Lineage. Oh, Adam State runs into the back of McDonald, collects the Australian car as well in the incident. I think that was Steve Janssen that got into that, no fault of his own whatsoever. Instant in towards the Vale here as Harry McDonald tries to recover that car back towards pit lane potentially if it's too damaged, but you can see this attempting to go wheel to wheel through the Vale, but McDonald getting the worst end of the stick there.
It was Steve Jansen that unfortunately was the innocent party getting caught up in that incident. The 8 car for Team Australia, you can see the damage, a very, very out of alignment right rear wheel for Harry McDonald, and that would be his race over for the Kiwi. He's parked it on the front straight. Now, will this trigger a safety car? Yes, it will. Safety car has been called by our FRG race officials in the stewards room. So that will bring this race under control, and everyone will tuck up behind the RG Aston Martin safety car as Harry McDonald, parked on the front straight, will be livid with that incident at the Vale chicane.
Yeah, of course, in a dangerous place there out on circuit, so it's a reasonable decision for the safety car to be called at this stage. We didn't get a safety car at Mount Panorama, which, if you asked me before this, would have probably been the more likely track to have a safety car, but no, we have one here at Silverstone instead. And how would you feel about that if you were Caruana? Because, I mean, that gap was maintaining, you know, pretty consistent at about that half a second, 0.6 of a second. But now, you know, it's been reduced somewhat. You know, how do you feel about this?
I think for Matt Caruana, I'd be pretty nervous at this stage, although he has a bit more help. Ryan McAuliffe, not as far down the order as the fellow countrymen were at Bathurst, sitting there in P5. So Ryan has the opportunity to make an impact on the couple of Aussies and the Kiwi that separates the two British drivers. As Matt Caruana just continues dragging the field around the circuit. They're just looking to find the back of the safety car, being piloted by 1988 Australian Formula Ford champion David Roberts, who typically joins me on a Tuesday night in the FRG commentary booth for the regular racing we conduct with the Formula Racing Group. There's the safety car, so this will be the opportunity that now the whole field will get bunched up. I don't expect them to be the safety car for all that long. I don't expect it to come in at the end of this lap, but I do think that we'll probably lose the safety car after one lap, but that will shorten the effective amount of racing we have here at Silverstone. Only a 30-minute race in total for the second race of the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup. And if I were Matt Caruana, I'd be feeling rather nervous and be starting to think about how I'm going to execute the restart here for the Australians and the Kiwis climbing over the back of me.
Well, you know, this may be for some of our drivers a little bit of a unknown situation, because, you know, typically especially on the official side of iRacing, you don't get safety cars, and therefore you don't get safety car restarts. So potentially a lot of these drivers will be out of practice when it comes to them. Of course, some leagues, well, like this one, do have manual safety cars. Some do use the automatic safety car from iRacing as well, but obviously on a road course it has to be deployed manually. But, you know, for some of these drivers, this might be uncharted territory here. So we might see a little bit of a shake-up here on this restart as we, again, get that confirmation that the safety car is coming in on this lap. I think it kind of helps that no lapped cars needed to come and get waved by.
So what will happen now is race control, Rue Koistra, will be on the radio to tell Matt Caruana that he has control of the field, allowing the safety car to peel away. And the way that the safety car restart formats are usually done with FRG is Matt will have control of the field, and at any point he wishes, he can go. And as soon as he goes, racing is green, 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 and it'll be on for young and old. So there's no rules that stop you from trying to pass before the start-finish line once racing has gone green. So watch here for Matt Caruana. As he leads the field, he has control of the restart pace. When he decides to push down on the skinny pedal, we'll be back under green flag racing conditions. There he goes, and already gets a jump on Steen Ledger coming out of the Vale chicane. And we're back under green flag racing with 21 minutes left to go here for the second race of the Tri-Nations Esports Cup.
Yeah, Caruana basically waiting until the last moment, just when the green flag came out there, to get this race restarted. That's definitely got a decent jump over Ledger there as Chin tried to improve position over Allen coming through the first sector as they go side by side through the loop here. The Australian on the outside will get the drive off the corner, but it'll still be outside for Aintree, which is not the ideal position. But Chin is able to carry the speed here on the way down the Wellington Straight. Allen might be a sit-in duck to Ryan McAuliffe as well. well, who heads his way around the outside. At Brooklands, there's been a contact between the two. Micallef will wash out wide a little bit. There's contact with Australian cars in behind because Netsov and Yeoman have really come together there. That's not ideal. Can't be going and hitting your teammates in a race like this as Taylor tries to capitalize on it.
Yeah, Taylor now on the outside, coming onto the old pit straight as they make their way towards Cox. It's a very cagey place to be. On the outside, you can see he backs out of it heavily and tucks in behind Rick Kuznetsov, who's now trying to open up the gap. Lockie Capel right behind there as well. Lockie looking for his way around. He took the wider entry into the Maggots chicane, trying to open up the corner and keep the corner speed alive without hurting the tyres on these considerably large and heavy Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo cars. As Leonage back there in position number 12, just looking down the rear bumper of Adam States on home soil now, looking to the inside to try and defend up into Stowe. Dylan O'Shea getting aggressive. He looks to the inside at Stowe, but couldn't get the car fired up on the way into the corner and has to tuck in behind as Michael Healy, another one of the Kiwis, watching that battle at the moment. They're fighting over the minor placings here. All the way outside the top 10, there is a battle everywhere you look at the moment, all the way through this field, with a whole bunch, 30 of them, the Ferraris on track, and everyone trying to fight it out for the honour and the bragging rights for their country. We've got a spinner in turn one. That was a very crossed up Australian car, and that was Leonage going down the order. He got the lock stops on well and truly, trying to save that car, and he has lost a couple of spots as a result, and now being absolutely hammered by another one of the Kiwi cars. Mike Matthew Pluck going up the inside. Watch this. It'll be coming in a moment. We'll watch what this battle had for us here. Dylan O'Shea fighting for it. He looks hard to the inside of the Vale chicane, goes door to door with another Australian, actually runs him out wide, then jump in the curb, and that was on the lock stops for the 79 car of Rehan Leonage. And was it here through turn one at the end of the Hamilton Straight through Abbey, turning in for Leonage. And there you go. Look at that big moment for Rehan, who's got it hard on the lock stops and has done a brilliant job to save it. Well done, actually, for Leonage, who was running second in the driver of the day vote. That should foster some more votes, I reckon. So Rehan should be climbing up the order in driver of the day, currently second on 15 votes. Ewan Baker still leading the votes with 22, but you can see that margin, 40.7. Leonage, with that effort, should be making some inroads on that.
Yeah, indeed. But look at the gap that Caruana's been able to establish, up to 1.7 seconds now in the couple of laps that we've had just after the safety car here. So Caruana really pushing at this stage to try and maximize the gap. And it might result in a championship win for him at the end of this one in 17 minutes time. But we're seeing the battles go on once again. Adam State down the inside of O'Shea that time around. We got Healy on the back of this one, looking to try and get himself involved as well. But there does seem to be a lot of elbows out here at Silverstone, at least compared to what we saw at Bathurst.
Especially at the Vale chicane, there seems to be an incident at that chicane complex every lap of the race so far. Cars going in too wide and fencing each other off the racetrack. We saw flashing up on screen a moment ago a drive-through penalty for the man in question moments ago. Rehan Leonage getting scored for a drive-through penalty, causing an incident on lap 5, so he had to go peeling off to the pit lane and rejoins back in 24th position. So that will hamper his charge in this race, as Dylan O'Shea, looking up the inside of Adam State, almost feeds him a door at the end of the Wellington Straight. And now State under pressure from Healy, who's going around the outside all the way around Luffield and gets the job done. State losing another spot here. Let's see the replay of this move. O'Shea actually didn't get up the inside. It just was a big opposite lock moment there for State on the outside of the turn, losing the position. So I'll take that one. I did Dylan O'Shea a bit of a disservice saying he got the door out of him. But Dylan, an ever-aggressive young driver, now up to position 11 for the Australians.
Yeah, indeed, Australia still on top in terms of the points coming into this one. There's Steen Ledger running around with his teammate there of Chin. but they've really been unable to match the pace of Caruana, who's extended the gap up to 2.3 seconds now, and we'll see a battle potentially between Ledger and Chin here. Well, if they feel that Caruana's gotten a bit too far away, then they might be tempted to try and have a little bit of a scrap for position there. But with Alan as close as he is and trying to close them down, might not be best advised here in this situation as we hit the halfway point in the race. Caruana looking to try and go on for a bit of a Sunday morning drive as it is here in the UK at the very front of the field, not having to worry about any battles here just yet. He can't take his mind out of the game though here, Chris, because that one little lapse of concentration, you know, pushing wide a little bit, getting the car upset, and then bam, you've lost a couple of seconds and potentially the race lead as well.
Well, that's it as he continues to lead this way. The way it stands at the moment, looking at some of your positional point standings, we've got some live calculations running in the background. If Callan Chin comes across the line in third, would go tied with Hugo Allen in the series standings. It would actually be a three-way tie with Ewan Baker, Hugo Allen, and Callan Chin. So Chin needs the points more than Ledger does. Steen Ledger would be steering down in the barrel of running position 2 overall with 50 points for the day. Now, we've seen they've swapped positions as they come down the old pit straight and rock through Cop. So we'll get the corrected standings on that when they come around the next lap, and that will change the way that our Esports Cup, Tri-Nations Esports Cup standings will present. We're actually trying to bring them up live at the bottom of your screen right now. That's how it looks right now. So Rick Kuznetsov would go to third, and as we were saying, Hugo Allen, Callan Chin, and Hugo Allen and Callan Chin would go tied still on 30 points. So Callan still needs some points to try and go to third in this point standings for the Tri-Nations Esports Cup. There's your Nations live prediction as well on the bottom right hand of the screen. And Australia currently looking at a 215-point haul for the two races here today, if the positions stay as they are with 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, Australia dominant in terms of the country standings here at the moment. No surprise considering how Bathurst went and how Silverstone is currently going for the Australians. It's been a great day at the office for them. What they might be missing out on, though, is the overall series winner. That's going to be potentially Matt Caruana if he can bring home that 3-second advantage here at the very end. He's continuing to pull away here at the moment, and well, he did a 1:59.1 on that last lap compared to a 1:59.6 with Callan Chin. That is quite a difference. When you're looking at half a second a lap advantage, you know things aren't going well if you're that car behind. Meanwhile, battles still go on, but potentially the P19 and back here as Bugami's trying to defend here from Stovall, who tries to find his way down the inside in towards the braking zone. He heads himself ahead just about. No, there's still an overlap, but there's contact between the two. The Kiwi gets sent out into the grass and falls down the field.
Oh, Jamie Stovall was on a charge as well. He was actually starting to make inroads on the driver of the day vote as well. So looks like this driver of the day vote right now, with the exception of Ewan Baker, although Ewan is not exactly where he would want to be in the field right now, down in position number 9. Stovall finds himself off the road at the Maggots and Beckett chicane, and unfortunately losing out on that battle. We pick up with Matt Stevens, another one of the Kiwis, currently running position 15. There's the driver of the day vote. The current standings showing up on the bottom right of your screen. You can see Stovall there was starting to score some points and move to third in the standings. So we'll see if that does change. Ewan Baker continuing to rock that score as we watch this battle with Michael Pluck, P16, going toe-to-toe with Benjamin Roberts, who gets up the inside at the Bale chicane. Benny Roberts trying to get the job done, but they're going to go side by side through the right-hander, and Benny finds himself on the outside and having to succeed the position again, getting right onto the rear bumper of Stevens as well. Sorry, Pluck, as they come onto the Hamilton straight, and Benny Stevens having to slot back in to position 17.
Yeah, a bit of squeaky bum time is what I call it there for Roberts, as he was really pressuring the back. Oh, McAuliffe McKelliff has had a big problem there. Rejoins the circuit down outside of the top 10. Not exactly sure what happened there. I just took my eyes off it for a moment. Is it a single car instance, single car spin? It's no one around him here at the moment, so I'm afraid it is. The car just swaps ends. Great heads-up driving by the Australian behind, not to run into the side of him. But that's a bit of an embarrassing one there for Ryan.
Yeah, tough one to take there, because there's nobody else that you can pin the blame for that incident there for Ryan McAuliffe, and that will see him down the order to position number 14. Not far up the road from this battle we're watching right now. Matthew Pluck, plumb in between two Australians of Benny Roberts and Teo Sorono, as we're seeing a 10-second time penalty coming for Lockie Capel for causing an incident on lap 8. So Capel up in P6 is going to fall a long way down the order. He would lose 10 seconds, and that would put him from where he sits at the moment, P6, would put him down in P15 or 16. We'll see if we can see what the incident is here. He's tucked in behind one of the British drivers and just sends it in, tags the right rear on the 13 car, and around we go. And the 13 car, I'm trying to find, was Nicholas Taylor losing out in that exchange.
Yeah, I've been having a keen eye on the timing screen here, because Ledger and Allen, we're relatively close out there on circuit, trying to fight out for that P3, but they've separated out just a little bit here at this stage. I have to wonder if that's a battle that's going to continue into the latter laps of this race. There's the man of the moment currently, though. It's Matt Caruana leading by 3.8 seconds. That is a huge advantage when you talk about, what, not even 25 minutes of this race gone just yet. It is a dominant performance from the British driver here at the moment. Of course, it will really do not a lot in terms of the UK's overall standings here in this one, apart from maybe just keeping themselves squeezed ahead, or attempting to squeeze ahead of New Zealand, as we see the battle going on for P number 19 here. Pluck trying to defend from Serrano, who sends it down the inside there at Brooklands, but now in towards left field. Is there an opportunity for the Kiwi to come back at it? Gets close to the middle of the corner, but that's going to mean a compromised run through the exit, and it's the run through the exit that you need down in towards Cops Corner if you want to try and make a daring pass into there, if you're, well, a certain Verstappen or Hamilton.
If you've got those kinds of qualities, then you can absolutely go for it. Into Maggots and Beckett's, we pick up this battle with Michael Healy, currently having his rear bumper assaulted by young Dylan O'Shea, the young Australian who's sitting position 10 on the racetrack right now. Dylan currently staring down the barrel of being 5th overall on combined points after the two races, who would be actually leading what is currently a 4-way tie between himself, Ewan Baker, Hugo Allen and Lockie Capel. Now Lockie, due to take a penalty, his 10-second time penalty from this race, would see him tumbling down the order for your overall predicted standings. But Michael Healy is currently just doing whatever he can to stay in front of young O'Shea, who has a little look down the Hamilton straight, not close enough to make it happen, through Abbey, using all of the road on the exit of the corner, and sets you up nicely into Farm Curve. Now hard on the brakes into Village, and O'Shea closes up. We'll see the difference in racing lines. O'Shea running a fair amount shallower on the exit, and that opens up the entry into the loop. Now running up through the gears around Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. Isn't really tucking in to try and get the toe here, is Dylan O'Shea, although he sits within 3.5-4 of a second as they hit hard on the brakes down at the Brooklands corner, right in front of the British Racing Drivers Club Tower. Beautiful spot to watch the Grand Prix. And then around Luffield corner, trying to get on the power nice and early without hurting the tyres too much and pushing the car wide. Now just taking a moment to breathe and think about your entry point into Cops Corner, because it's a bang down a gear, tap of the brakes and turn in and hope it sticks with these Ferraris. There's actually good execution there from Dylan O'Shea through Cops. He's closed the gap up to the back of Healy as they make their run towards Maggots and Beckett's.
Heat being turned up a bit, and oh, a little bit scrappy there through Baggett's and Beckett's there. I was just watching on my own view, Healy having not the most ideal line into there, as we see a replay involving Jack Mara here. That's with the number 14 ahead. That's Bugeme.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Up the inside and spun it on the apex of Luffield there for Jack Mara. That will send Jack tumbling down the order to position 24. We'll go back and we'll see here that actually Healy has opened up the gap ever so slightly over Dylan O'Shea. Adam States right behind. 3 different countries represented here. Positions 9, 10 and 11. You can even say all over the field as well. You've got 3 different countries represented in the top 4 right now. The duo of Australians, Callan Chin and Steen Ledger is all. There's a moment there for O'Shea. And State is going to go around the outside at Farm Curve and get on the binders, and O'Shea is going to just let that happen. That's very uncharacteristic there for Dylan O'Shea. With 4 minutes and 35 left to go. How's this for a battle? Rodrigo leading the charge, and on the outside, as Taylor and Leonage go past, Rodrigo fires it back up the inside at the loop and puts Leonage down a spot again, back to P20. That was a pretty aggressive move there, and Leonage is not taking it laying down. He's all the way across to the hard left of the racetrack to be up the inside at Brooklands and gets the job done, albeit momentarily, because Rodrigo might have a crack again here as they come out of Luffield.
Yeah, this is great racing here back in the pack. You don't have to look towards the front of the field. In fact, you can't really to find some great racing out there. These guys still giving us a very, very good show at the very end of this event. Of course, we got this grouping of the UK cars here. Leonage involved in the thick of it, it seems, here at this very late stage. Rodrigo attempting to try and lock onto the bumper. As we see further back through the field, we've got Mara attempting an overtake on Reed here as well, as Reed pushes wide through Cop's corner. Here comes the opportunity for Mara to sweep around the outside of Maggots and get that position on lockdown. Absolutely fantastic stuff there from Mara, capitalizing on that opportunity of the car ahead pushing wide. There's Caruana now up to 5 seconds ahead of Chin at this stage. It's basically a procession for him at the very front of the field. He's got no concern of what happens in behind here, at least for the moment. He can even just ease off a little bit. I doubt he will. I don't think he's the kind of driver that will ease off a little bit at the end of the race. He wants to try and win this in dominant fashion. You can see on the graphic in the bottom right how that gap has grown over the last couple of laps, and it's by significant margins every single time. 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second. It seems like there's no touching Matt Caruana, especially inside the final 3 minutes that we have of this race to run. In terms of close battles out there, though, things have spread out just that little bit. Of course, we do have a close run thing between Taylor and Leonage. Of course, we do have Alan involved in the battle for P3 as well, trying to track down Steen Ledger, actually gaining about 0.5 of a second on that last lap in his particular effort. But it's going to be a very, very big ask here right at the very end to do anything about it. Although Ledger pushing wide, coming through the exit of the Cop's corner, it's not really going to help his case.
No, not at all, but he is going to still hold on to that 3rd position for the moment. Hugo Allen, the Kiwi, leading the charge for the New Zealand drivers, losing 1 spot from the starting position as Callan Chin has had a brilliant race compared to starting out of position number 4 on the 2nd row of the grid up to, and we'll see him charge up the overall standings order, currently looking at being 4th overall, just losing out on 1 point to Rick Kuznetsov on the overall standings. But we'll put that to one side for the moment with 1:25 left on the master clock here. Ledger 3rd on the racetrack. There you can see the live prediction of the driver standings on the bottom right of your screen. You see Steen Ledger to be 2nd overall, rather unable to be beaten for that position considering his standing so far. But a spin or something to happen in this final moment will bring all of that hard work undone in the final lap of the race. And Rick Kuznetsov will be sitting 3rd overall. Some great battle going on with Hamish Cleland there. That was very dicey into Abbey.
Yeah, battle's going on towards the back of the field. We might have one start to show signs of happening for P3 because Alan has really been trying to push that New Zealand car right up to the rear bumper of Steen Ledger. Not quite there just yet, but we may, at the end of this race, see a New Zealander on the podium if it goes Hugo Allen's way. So that is definitely one thing to watch here at the very end of this race. Here comes Matt Caruana across the old pit straight there in towards Cobb's Corner, and well, that will be basically confirmation that this is indeed the final lap. But the battle is the one behind here, the battle for the final podium spot between Steen Ledger and Hugo Allen. How defensive does Ledger go in towards Stowe Corner here? Can he hold on to this P3 here? Because, of course, the championship has gone away from him at this stage, you have to say. But maybe he can save a little bit of face and get a podium in the final race here today. They're going to charge their way down towards Stowe Corner. Meanwhile, a good couple of seconds further up the road, it's Matt Caruana for the UK that heads his way in towards the Vale for the final time here. Caruana has aced it here in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup. He heads his way out of club and comes across the line as our overall winner of the championship. Meanwhile, further back through the field, we've got Ledger and Allen coming across the line basically together. Ledger holds him off. Chin finishes in second place. The rest of the runners are heading their way across the line. It will be Team Australia that takes the regional championship here today. So Caruana, the individual driver, Australia, the region.
A solid result for the lone British driver, taking the win in both races to claim the overall and will win himself the top prize of a Next Level Racing GT Elite Light wheel plate edition paired with a ES1 racing seat worth in excess of £815. That's plus shipping and taxes, because I know the conversion to the local retailers for you there, Connery, is a lot higher than that, but it's a prize pool in excess of 1,600 Australian dollars for the overall winner, Matt Caruana, taking out both races as Australia takes out the Tri-Nations Cup by a considerable margin on account of some stellar performances from the likes of Callan Chin, Steen Ledger, Rick Kuznetsov, Lockie Capel, Daniel Yeaman and Dylan O'Shea, not to be counted out as well, Benjamin Roberts, the fellow countryman, getting it done for the Aussies. Some solid racing here from Silverstone. It did live up to the expectations to have a fair bit more open racing around the track compared to what we saw at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, it was great. A great display of action out there. It was quiet at the front of the field for Caruana. The safety car didn't concern him whatsoever. He was still able to pull away. 5.6 seconds was the gap at the very end of the race. Well, if you want to win an event, you want to do it in that fashion, don't you? With absolutely no questions asked. Callan Chin will finish in P2 here with Steen Ledger in third place. Hugo Allen getting a fantastic finish there for Team New Zealand, finishing in fourth place. Yes, it was close to a podium, but it's always that wanting of an additional lap there to try and make that happen. Kuznetsov finishes in fifth place with Capel in sixth. Yeaman will round out the top 7 cars. Ewan Baker will be in P8, and we'll get confirmation of the Driver of the Day Championship here in just a moment. We've got Michael Healy there in P9 with Adam State rounding out the top 10. O'Shea in 11th with McKelliff 12th. Clellens, Stevens, Roberts, Pluck, Taylor and Leonage will round out the top 18 competitors here at Silverstone. And then towards the very back of the field, you have drivers that perhaps did not have the best of events here today. A couple of laps down, couple of retirements. You got James Hogan, Harry McDonald down there with laps down. It's not a great day for them, but I imagine a lot of the drivers will definitely be very appreciative of being even able to compete in this event amongst their fellow countrymen. For these great prizes. Of course, you know, Caruana coming out on top at the end of the day. In terms of driver of the day, though, we can confirm that it's Ewan Baker that takes the prize.
A solid run for Ewan as well to take out the driver of the day after coming home position 8 and being the second of the Kiwi drivers and New Zealanders in this second race. I think it's time. We're just waiting on a couple more of our drivers to bump into the green room before we start to drag them on in and have a chat. We are actually waiting on your overall drivers champion, Matt Caruana, who's just a bit of fun turning around his fellow countrymen and causing a bit of mischief on the cool-down lap. Why not as well? There's confirmation of the overall standings for the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup, confirming Matt Caruana as your overall winner, taking away the grand prize of the Next Level Racing GT Elite Light Wheelplate Edition. Steen Ledger coming home in second and leading the Australian contingent to win himself the regional award of a Next Level Racing GT track worth 1,200 Australian dollars. Rick Kuznetsov comes home third in the overall standings from Callan Chin and Dylan O'Shea. Look at that, a point apiece separating the three Australians. Ewan Baker cashes out beautifully though as the first of the New Zealanders, a little bit further behind, tied on points with Dylan O'Shea. Ewan taking home the regional prize of the Next Level Racing GT track for being the first of the New Zealanders in the championship, and he wins himself the driver of the day, the Next Level Racing HF8 haptic feedback gaming chair. I think it's time, Connery. We're going to drag in some of our winners here, so bear with me for a moment. I'm going to drag a few of our drivers into the broadcast studio. We'll start with your overall champion, 2 race wins going the way. Congratulations, overall champion Matt Caruana.
Yeah, thank you. It was that was a good race, that one. The car felt really good, so yeah, just managed to keep the pace going. Yeah.
That was a dominant performance. You were pulling out lap times that were, at some points of the race, half a second a lap faster than the rest of the field. We were talking earlier, and we were quite coy about it, and you were keeping fairly tight lips after the Bathurst race. Is that the home field advantage that we were expecting?
Well, it must be, because I don't know. I just got in and the car felt good, the pace was good, and I just focused on keeping the tyres. But yeah, it must be.
A solid result nonetheless. So what are you going to do with your overall prize thanks to Next Level Racing? You score yourself a GT Elite Light Wheelplate Edition, a solid rig for sim racing.
Yeah, it's a great prize. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I'm going to have to pay it up.
Fantastic. Congratulations once again. Connery, anything you can add, my friend?
Well. It looked very easy at the end there for you, Caruana. It's do you expect it to be that easy in the final race here at Silverstone? Were you expecting for the Aussies to run you a little closer, or was this something you were hiding up your sleeve?
No, I mean, obviously Steen and Kaylin, I know them. They're both really fast, so I wasn't really expecting to drive off. But yeah, it would have been fun to have a proper race if we had that. But yeah, still really happy.
Oh, thank you very much, and go and enjoy the overall win, and go and enjoy the prizes once they get to you.
Thank you very much.
We'll jump on.
There we go, Chris.
We'll jump on to second place in the standings, and the leader of the Australian contingent taking away the regional prize of a Next Level Racing GT track worth $1,200. Congratulations, Steen Ledger. Some solid races, mate, losing out the win in that first round at Mount Panorama, but you had some work cut out for you in this battle here at Silverstone.
Yeah, I knew coming in that Bathurst was where my chance was against Matt, because I don't feel particularly comfortable around Silverstone, but he just caught me off guard with a good move, so can't argue with that. And then once he got ahead, nothing I could really do. And here, yeah, just a better driver.
Mate, you had a solid battle there, burying in the fight with Callan and fighting it out with Hugo Allen at the late stages there. Were you nervous about just doing your best to try and keep it on track and pick up some points?
Yeah, well, I had a good fight with Kaylin, and then following him trying to get a run back at a little moment, and that's where I went, okay, just chill it out now. I know I had good race 1 result, so from there, it was just bring it back kind of thing.
Well, for your troubles, you take away the prize worth $1,200 for the GT track thanks to Next Level Racing. What are you going to do with your new prize?
Oh, it's awesome that this is all supported by Next Level Racing, so use it and do some more racing with it.
and we'll put you on the spot now, because as the leading driver for Team Australia, who take out the Tri-Nations Cup thanks to the Aussies, on behalf of all the Australians, who do you have to thank?
Oh, I got the guys back in my team at Grit and Go Esports, and then all the Aussie guys, of course. Thanks for rocking up and being quick alongside us, because I think looking at the start of both races, a lot of Australian liveries, which was good to see.
It's always fantastic to see. Congratulations once again, mate. Second overall in the championship and the leading Australian driver in the Tri-Nations Esports Cup. We'll quickly chat before we get to Ewan Baker. Congratulations going the way of Rick Kuznetsov for third overall in the standings. Unfortunately, no prize for you, Rick, but a solid result nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with no prizes, but yeah, it was a good night. Didn't have the best pace overall, but I was trying to be consistent and get all the good results of both races.
How much fun is it to be teaming up with your fellow countrymen to try and put on some good battles? And you ended up taking third in the overall standings by a mere 1 point. But it must be a lot of fun to be able to team up with the fellow Aussies and get out there and have a blast.
Yeah, 100%. It's an honour to represent the Aussies. Everyone was quick out there, so yeah, it was good fun.
A solid result, mate. Congratulations once again on third outright.
Thanks, mate.
And last but certainly not least, the top New Zealand driver. I think it was it 6th overall? I'll just confirm that. Yes, it was 6th overall. And you got a few friends out there, mate, because you took out the driver of the day vote. Congratulations to Ewan Baker.
Yeah, mate, New Zealand behind me, apparently. It's nice to know I've got some friends out there.
Considering you're not a native New Zealander, that's fair to say.
Yeah, so Scottish at birth, but I defected about 18 years ago, so I've been living in New Zealand since and sort of racing under the NZ flag. So it's my home, so it seems only fair to fly under their banner.
What was the highlight of the evening's racing for you?
Oh, I mean, it was just tough out there. I knew coming in that it was going to be a mission to fight these guys. Absolutely rapid, and standing on the grid and just seeing a sea of yellow and green cars around me, I knew the Aussies would be coming out swinging. But yeah, just to mix it up with these guys is great fun. I had the battle through Bathurst trying to keep Rick behind me, which was definitely pretty tough. A lot of pressure being piled on. And then Silverstone was good fun as well. I had a good little scrap with Rayhan early on as well, which was, a lot of fun. So it's good to go wheel to wheel with these guys.
A fantastic result in the end, mate. And to be the top Kiwi, you win yourself a Next Level Racing GT track worth, I'll find it in your dollars, hold on, 1,300 New Zealand dollars in excess of that. Plus, you take out the HF8 haptic feedback gaming chair. That's worth $900 in excess of in your home country. That's an awesome prize pack thanks to Next Level Racing. What are you going to do with the prize?
Oh, I need to start setting it up. I mean, I've been racing on a homemade rig for the last couple of years, so it'd be nice to have something a bit more high spec. Yeah. So yeah, not bad for a night's work. And
not bad at all, mate.
Yeah. And just a big shout out to everyone that voted for me. It's just, like say, fantastic to know that I've got a sort of growing fan base supporting me. And yeah, big shout out to the team Kiwi Sim Racing as well for all their support. It's been, it's fantastic knowing you've got some really solid people around you.
Well, I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday night. On a side note, in the FRG series, we'll get you back on track on that one, mate. But enjoy the prize, enjoy the evening, and I can't wait to see you rocking the new NLR rig coming soon.
Thank you very much.
Well, that is done. Connor Umatic, what a great night of racing. For the first time we get to run something like this, the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup. It's been a pleasure, but the Aussies, mates, we got it done.
Yep. You absolutely did. I will have to hand that one to you. It was a fantastic team effort on the part of the Australian team to get so many fast drivers to take part in this series and come away with the goods. Even though the UK in the form of Caruana ended up with the overall win in terms of the individual championship, you can't really sniff at the team effort that Australia were able to put out there, and it just shows the strength of Australian sim racing as well, which I, as a primarily European commentator, don't necessarily get to see a lot of the time unless they get themselves involved in iRacing special events. So it's great to see these guys out there do battle, and I would love to see more of it. That's just what I'll say.
we can't wait to put plans in place and maybe do it all again. A special thank you to everyone behind the scenes who made this happen, especially all the people co-hosting this event from Motorsports Australia, Motorsport UK and Motorsport New Zealand, plus the team at FRG Formula Racing Group and Luke from Race Stars TV for bringing us the broadcast. My name's Chris Mitchell, joined alongside Connor Matic. It's been a pleasure to bring you the Next Level Racing Tri-Nations Esports Cup. Maybe we'll get to do it again sometime. Good night.